It's Thursday, it's 5, and we're live. And welcome to Frankly Speaking, where truth is our mission, reality our realm, said as we see it, and frankly as well. We invite your calls because we got those phones working. Our number here is 781-780-9460. Frankly, Joe, right after Paul and Darren have whatever they have to say. How are you, boys?
How you doing?
Good. Happy
That's
spring,
it?
yeah.
Jack it up a little bit, Darren. I mean, you look
Beautiful
like you just
weather
can't.
out. Summer's coming.
Yeah, I can see
I'm
that.
wearing my summer shirt.
I love it. As a matter of fact,
You
palm
look
trees.
like
fat.
you're losing weight.
I
Paul's
am.
always looking good. So, thanks for having me here tonight.
Spoken like a true politician.
Thank you.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so what's this?
Talk about BS, huh?
Yeah, well-
I'm throwing it everywhere tonight.
Well, wait a minute. We have a new segment tonight, folks, so we'll save it for later. Frankly, Joe, let's get that up there. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Amazingly, Frankly Joe is on the same page as Lynn Item and Representative Seth Moulton on two distinctly different issues. In an opinion piece, the item applauded the Conservation Commission chairwoman, Mary Lester, and the board who, in the item's words, voted 4-0 to provide a final local approval required to move the proposed 332-unit residential complex on the Lynnway forward. The item's views it as a bold step forward and catalyst for ongoing development along the Lynnway shoreline. Frankly, Joe couldn't agree more. Although Frankly Joe has issues with Representative Moulton, to say the least, his efforts on behalf of Lynn to persuade Northeastern University to move the Marine Science Center to Lynn deserves a tip of the hat. Fellas, let me ask you, both of you have been really active on that Chevy site, and it looks like it's going to happen. This is a hurdle, interesting hurdle that went by the boards, right?
Yep.
Speak to it, both of you.
So I was talking with a couple of the people involved in the development the other day, last week, and they were both very excited because they seemed to be pretty close. They didn't get into any details, but so I don't know whether the Conservation Commission vote is the last step, but it's pretty close to the last step.
Well, they're going to be digging in the fall.
In the fall. And they were hoping to have been digging by now, but because of state regulations and everything, they were able to go in and work out all the issues. And it was mostly over the wall that they were going to put from the ocean to the land. But this is huge. This is the start.
It is the catalyst, isn't it?
Yep,
I mean, this is the thing that will, like the shot.
Right.
That
That
was-
will be heard around the world.
I like that.
And, when you take a look at how much development, and I've said it for the last 3 or 4 years, billions of dollars worth of development, billions of dollars worth of jobs.
With a B? You talking about with a B?
With a B. And millions of dollars in tax revenue coming into the city. You're talking over 350 acres of land on the ocean, completely undeveloped.
Can I throw something at you, both of you guys? It's just a thought, one of my stream of consciousness. And by the way, folks, please forgive me. We don't have the greatest script tonight. I just kind of want to do a little freelancing, stream of consciousness. When I was a kid, I played a lot of sports. We're all down at Beach Playground, and you were at Kylie Park. No, you were at Clark Park. And Kylie Park.
I was at Lynn Shore.
And you were at Lynn Shore with me, right? I don't see kids at the parks today, and yet these parks have enormous pieces of property that are underdeveloped. I'm wondering whether we should rethink about that. Is there any thoughts on that? I mean, there's a lot of land there that's not being used. It's just fallow, so to speak, because kids just don't go play baseball, basketball anymore.
Right, but I can tell you this, and I'll use Kylie Park as an example. The basketball court in the summertime is jammed. The baseball, Lynn Shore Little League is playing down there now. Dave Dorgan revitalized that entire league a couple of years in the last few years. We've got a kid's splash pad put down there. No matter what time of year you go down to Kylie Park, it's being used all the time.
So let's say that we say designate Kylie Park is being used.
Right.
Keep it.
Clark Park, for the most part, is being used with the baseball field. We put, in the last few years, what's the game you guys all like playing, the Italians?
What?
With the ball.
Bocce?
Bocce. We put a bocce
Italian
court.
boys?
Yep. We put a bocce court down there. We got checker tables down there, the
Really?
paddleboard thing. So we made that park more adult friendly, I guess.
Now that's the interesting thing. If we were able to do adult, for example, Down at Memorial, down
Yep.
behind English High School, they have the softball leagues, don't they? All some along the lighting there.
Yeah, they have the lighting, and they also have unbelievable tennis courts down there.
They do.
They have some of the most
They
beautiful
do.
tennis courts
But
in
what
the city.
about like when I go to Westland and where they were going to build, where they put the proposed junior high school? There's
McManus
right
Field.
by Tech. There's a big park there that I never see anybody there.
Right, and if that has to be the location where they build a school over there, because
makes sense.
Westland definitely needs to have junior high school over there for the population of kids that live in that area. You know, the field, Paul went there, I went there, we used it when I went there, but you don't have as many kids involved in the sports.
That was my point. If we recognize that the kids have different things today,
Yep.
why aren't we adjusting accordingly? That's my point.
So I would just say that, you know, there's an inventory of all the parks in the city, right?
Yeah.
You know, it starts with Lynn Woods, you know, and so
Right.
forth. And, you know, we should be evaluating them one by one and saying either they are being utilized and we should keep them, or that they are being underutilized and enhance them like Darren's been doing in his ward. And if there are some that just aren't getting any use, maybe we consider alternative uses for them. I agree with you. I mean, I drive down the Commons every day, right? And they're doing all that work on
Yeah, I
the
see
Commons
that.
and stuff like that. And I'm not suggesting that we make that, you know,
Housing.
the even side of the street, or whatever. But you could see, you know, doing that, right? I mean, there's a lot of real estate there that you could do
There is.
something with. And I'm
Right.
not saying you do that,
But at the same time, well, you got to understand, if you take away a park right now, the way the law is written in Massachusetts, you have to replace it.
That was the argument used on the two schools proposal before. But laws can be changed.
right.
Right. And
Because-
that has to be at the state
And,
level.
and the question is, are the laws appropriate for the circumstances
For the
of
time.
Another thing, and I know what you're going to say. I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. What about the Little League field and the Senior League field down next to Ocean Shores at the Rotary, right in Nahat?
Where Lynn Shaw used
Nobody's
to
ever
play.
using
Right.
them. They're not being used, but it's
But is that
MDC.
state
It's owned
property?
it's owned by the MDC.
It is.
And,
That's right.
You know,
It's
And that's
actually
where you and I
Nahat,
used
too.
to.
part of it's Nahat.
That's Nahat, yeah.
Yeah, but it's interesting because that's where you and I, our neighbor, we
Yeah.
play ball. Folks, what do you think? And our number here is 781-780-9460. Let me ask you another thing, because as I was driving here, I happened to come through downtown Lynn. It was kind of slow and coming up Union Street and all. And I've noticed that there's an interesting flavor happening in what was called Central Square from when I was a youngster. It's developing a ethnic flavor, which I think is a positive. And if that's developed, I mean, I noticed some restaurants on Monroe Street didn't even know were there.
Yep.
Do you know what they are? Like Thousand
Latino,
Hills or something like that?
Mexican,
Huh?
yeah. Well, Thousand Hills.
That's a coffee
You've never
shop.
been there?
No.
You got to go and check it out. Everybody's got to go there. It's unbelievable pastries, unbelievable coffee.
And it's
the
a
atmosphere.
nonprofit too. All the
Right.
money goes towards
It's
the
a
community.
nonprofit?
It's run by the
Never
church
knew.
that's down on Monroe Street. So
By the church?
By the church.
That's interesting.
And you can go there at any time of day, and I guarantee you're going to be surprised who you see in there.
We actually use them for catering from time to time.
Yep.
They bring
You know,
free stuff.
I would like us to embrace what we have and celebrate it.
Right.
You know, the downtown has character. The building, Paul, drove by and there's a little Gliss building on across from the clinic, from the health clinic. Is that correct? There's like a little outlook that says Gliss on it.
On Union Street?
On Union Street, where T.W. Rogers used to be.
Oh yeah, right. That's where our SCO staff are located.
So you're there, you have a presence there. There's a lot of nonprofits there. By the way, let me go back to give the item a bouquet. They said, look, there are naysayers when it comes to the Beacon site. You know, Isaac and that group there, that they want affordable housing. You've consistently copped about the fact that we're at saturation point.
Over 30%.
Over 30%. Now, he wants more.
Right. And he's saying, and he's using the argument for the people who live here need affordable housing, but every single time they come in front of us and start talking about it, they're actually talking about bringing more people into the city from Boston and those areas where we should be taking care of the people that are living here. And most of them that are living here are already living in what I guess you could say is affordable housing. Otherwise, they wouldn't be living.
Right.
Question.
The key is to bring income into
Right,
discretionary,
disposable income.
right, where they'll actually spend
But
it.
the argument that the item made in the editorial, which was, I thought, right on target, was the projects in my old neighborhood, on Sagamore Street,
Right. 90%.
qualify as subsidized housing, right?
Well, affordable housing.
Well-
And that whole project
Yeah.
is going to change that entire area down there, all funded by the unions.
You keep telling me that, yeah.
They lent the money to build it, along with the housing authority.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be, affordable housing now isn't what people think. It is. It's
I
not,
really don't like that term, affordable
I
housing.
don't
Let's
like
be
it
honest.
either.
Let's be honest about it. Some houses are unaffordable.
Right.
You know, and with the assessment that you guys did, the city did on taxes. You know, I went for $31,000 more than last year on assessed value of my home, which is going to cost you folks and me, Paul, and you. And by the way, you didn't escape it either. Yours went up pretty substantially too.
They
right?
most certainly
we all
did.
did.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Commercial went down.
someone mentioned that to me. In
I
fact, I
mentioned
was
it,
up
yeah.
at the True Value in Wyoming Square, and the fellow, he's a great guy. He said, "How is it the commercial went down and the real estate went up?" And you gave me both of you explained that
So
last
it
week.
was such a significant increase in the market value of residential. That's the key.
That's the reason for it.
Yeah.
That's it, in a nutshell.
I mean,
But that
how many times you drive down a street, you drive down regularly, you see one day you drive by and there's a for sale sign on it. The next day it's for sale, but it says sale under agreement
Pending.
or pending. They're snapping them up like that, so that just drives the price up. So, you know, in theory, you could have bought a house a year ago for, let's say, $300,000, and put it on the market today and make 50 grand. It's that simple, because people are snapping them up, and
Right.
the market is that, you know.
Well, you know what
Strong.
it is too, that in Boston and in the surrounding communities, and we're close enough to Boston where it's starting to trickle down to us. People can't afford to live in Boston, so they're moving into communities like Lynn. That's why Beacon Chevrolet is going to be.
what does those 322 units do? They're going to bring in folks that probably don't have kids.
100%. It's
one
not
and
going to have an
two-bedroom
impact
apartments, huh?
on the school system.
Right.
If it has any impact, it'll be minor, but it'll be bringing in professional people that will have what we call disposable income, that will be frequenting the restaurants, the shows that take place at City Hall, shopping in our supermarkets.
They may even want to use the ferry if we
Yeah.
have one.
Well, that's up to the governor.
If the ferry,
No,
if
no,
the
that's
ferry
up
were
to-
viable,
You have to
Economic-
get enough people to use it. That's
that's
what
the
it takes.
key.
That's it.
You know,
You're
you
right.
can't have it costing $25 a ride and only getting 14.
Right.
You know, so let me say something else that you know, it's been pleasant out recently, and I was driving down the Lynn Shore Drive. I don't care how many times I drive down the Lynn Shore Drive from Swampscott to Red Rock. It is the sight always thrills me. It's
Yep.
gorgeous,
Yep.
and part of that's your ward along the Lynn
All the
Shore.
way from Swampscott to Red Rock.
It's yours.
It's all mine.
It's all yours. The housing stock there is unbelievable, and on the side streets, unbelievable.
You had
F. Lee
up
Bailey
until-
used to live there.
up until 2 years ago. So, I won't say whose house it is, but a few years ago, they got more money when they sold that house and the people who bought it than any other house in the city. So, I hear how the people up in Ward 1, how expensive it is to live up there. Well, and this is why I love bragging about Ward 3, the diversity, not only because of ethnicity, but because of income.
Right.
You have people that live on Lynn Shore Drive that are attorneys and doctors and professors making millions
Can we
of
stop
dollars.
on that, because we have to take a break, and that's a great point you're making. Let's get back to it, about the enclaves in the city of Lynn. It gives it character.
The old
We're gonna
Diamond
talk about
District.
that.
Right.
We'll be back in a minute. Stay tuned.
I was 18 years old. I had it made. Until I went to a college party and I thought I was immune to temptation. That's when reality struck. Quite literally. If you choose to slowly end your liver, don't let it be your life that ends early. Be responsible.
always protected me. Every day of my life.
There you go.
Thanks, Dad.
I'm older now, but I still need you. Prescription pain pills, heroin. I know kids are getting addicted, and people are dying. Can you still protect me?
You can protect your teen. Teens who talk to their parents about opioids are less likely to misuse them. Find out what you can say.
And we're back.
Marriages,
You know, the
things
beautiful
like
Lynn
that, yeah.
Shore Drive. And there's so many,
Notary.
fellas, we're on the air, by the way, you know. But we talked about the Lynn Shore Drive and the character and the housing stock there, which is phenomenal.
Right.
We
Ocean
talked
Street,
about
yeah.
we talked about parks, and we have some wonderful parks that are being used, but there are others that maybe have to rethought, right? There's a demographic change taking place in what we used to call downtown Lynn, Central Square, and actually has flavor. If you want to be honest about it, it has a nice flavor about it, right? It's heavily Spanish, like the North End used to be heavily my
Italian.
ethnicity, you know?
Right. Well, let me tell you what. Last year they did downtown the block party when they put all the art up on the walls downtown, and they're going to do the block party again this year. They probably had, I'd say, over 5,000 people who came down and spent the day downtown on a Saturday. And anybody wants to come down and have an unbelievable time, come down there and see what's going on. You'll see everybody going in and out of the shops and the restaurants, and like you said, Joe, people who have
Well, let me
don't
ask you
come
this.
down there.
What can we do? Paulie, you're a big fan of downtown's potential.
Yep.
Talk to me about that a lot. That's the key. If we can attract folks from where I live, up in Ward 1, I mean, I live in Ward 2, Precinct 1 and Ward 2. If we get the folks from up my area, instead of them going to Linfield and Peabody, if they started coming downtown, and that'd be helpful, wouldn't it?
Right, it absolutely would. You know, I've talked to a number of people over the years, you know, that born and raised in Lynn, have been here their whole life and live up in Ward 1, let's say, and they say that they just don't go to downtown Lynn. You know, ever since like the 70s and the 80s when everybody fled, whatever, and, you know, just the rumors that you hear about what's actually going on down there. People need to get down there and actually experience it. I mean, just as an example, somebody who's born and raised in the city of Lynn can really appreciate, for example, the guy who's going around putting up the neon signs in all these locations. I mean, those are the coolest things ever. Have you seen them?
Yeah, at nighttime, they're unbelievable.
I mean, so these are the neon signs from the 50s and the 60s, fully restored and on buildings. You know, the business isn't behind it. But, you know, like you got there's a Chinese restaurant one, and then there's one for a shoe store, Lads and Lassies, and people will go down and they'll remember these stores from when they were young, walking down Union Street or whatever. And
Well, that's what I noticed on Monroe Street. They had, you know, by that Thousand Hills place, they had I'm looking at this neon sign. They said restaurant. I said, what restaurant? You know,
Right.
Is that what you're talking
that's what
about?
I'm talking
right?
about. Yeah, there's a guy, and I don't know his name, but he owns the building where Prime Machine is.
Yeah.
And he actually
has a lot of
bought the neon sign from my bowling alley like 15 years ago. And he probably restored it. He's got it inside with a bunch of other neon signs that he's restored. And he's bringing back those Lynn signs, and he's putting them up around the city. It's awesome.
Speaking of your bowling alley, your family is thinking of moving out of that business now, and that's a shame because there'll be none left.
Yeah,
its
you know,
time has come and gone. Actually,
Yeah.
Candlepin bowling.
Yeah, you know, and you know, the final determination hasn't been established at this point, but something's going to change, you know, and we're working on that now.
There was a picture that I saw many years ago, Danny DeVito, when he was hot, you know, and it had to do with a wire factory in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, of all places. And he was a corporate raider. And when he made his argument for why he was taking over the company was because no matter how good a wire they produced, his time had come and gone. And his argument was there was a guy who used to make a wonderful whip when they had the horse and buggy days.
Right.
Well, we have cars now.
Right.
There's no need for them. That's basically what's happened to bowling alleys and the parks that we're talking about, the type of housing stock that we have to reinvent. And who's that guy that we talked about? Like, was it Whedon? Was that his name?
Jeff Whedon, yeah.
Yeah, and he talked about what? What you were talking about, both of you guys are big proponent of the out years. We have a caller, Lois. Lois, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. This is Lois Lane.
Oh, hi, Lois.
The singer.
I was a neighbor of yours way back when. I lived at 56 Sachem, right across from you.
Lois Lane lived at 56 Sachem Street.
Next,
Yeah.
well, I lived at 51, so you're across the street, yeah.
We were across the street. We grew up together.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Many years ago, many years ago. My question is, last week you were mentioning about the $45, we call it another tax, for trash for pickup. And I really only got the end of that. So I would like you to go over that again about seniors living in single homes, and I am up in Ward 1. Paul just described me. We're up at, let's say, single homes, senior citizens, and where do we apply? What you said something about we could apply for an abatement for that.
Yeah.
Right. So you got to get the bill.
Can you explain that again?
Sure. That's his ticket.
Paul, we were on the Washington trip together.
That's right. Yeah, we went down. We took a bunch of World War II and Korean veterans.
World War II vets.
We had a blast.
We did Korean too,
Yeah.
and Vietnam. Yeah, we
Yeah.
did. It
Lois,
was
thanks for the
wonderful. We had a
call.
great time, and love to do that one again. Okay, thank you very much. Bye
Well,
bye.
Thanks,
thank
Sarah,
you.
why don't you go with that?
That's your baby
Yeah.
because you mentioned that last week.
What it is if you're 70 years or 69.
Right.
If you're 69 years old, that you'll get a $45 abatement added taken away from the $90. So when you get your bill, you have to bring it down to the city clerk's office and show them that you're 69 years old and you'll get the abatement.
So let's do
Go
the
ahead.
math on that. So the bill per single-family household is $90 a year.
Right.
So every other quarter, you'll get a $45 bill.
For $90, right?
Right. So,
Yeah.
Right. So,
Total of
45 in June, and then in December
Yep.
you get another 45.
Right.
So the abatement, once you establish that you're eligible for the abatement, you'll get $22.50 for every time, right?
Correct.
And you'll get that reversed.
Right.
Oh, so
essentially.
you have to only do it once.
Yeah.
That's it. Our number here is 781.
Actually, I don't know that that's true. You
No.
do it once because you could move and.
But no, yeah, it'll be registered at that property, and if the person dies,
Right. Then
abatement
That's a
goes.
good point. So you're saying that, is it questionable as to whether you have to go down every quarter or every half year to do it, biannually?
no.
No, that's right, my point. Once you establish that
Right.
you're 69 at that
But in
address.
theory, if you are, if Lois Lane lives in Ward 1 and she gets a bill, the next cycle that comes out, she gets a bill for $45 and she goes down and gets the abatement for $22.50, and then 6 months from now, she decides to move out of the house and sells it to somebody else.
That's a different issue.
She's
There has
still
to be
on
a
the
mech-
hook, though, for the $22.50
She is.
for the whole year.
Yeah. They make that adjustment
so-
in the passing,
so
I'm sure.
that-
By the way, has she been around with Clark Kent lately, or has you seen him, or what? I don't know. Pedro, can we put up tax day June, because this fits right into what we're talking about. So tax day is June 6th, correct? It's not the 1st, it's the 6th. That's when I have to pay my quarterly.
Yep.
All right. And trash fee day, I believe you said was July 1st.
They're
Is
going to
that
send the trash
to
fees
July
out.
1st?
No, they'll send it out in July.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. So it's not due on July 1st.
I thought that was going to be
sent-
on the tax bill.
No, it's going to be separate. They
Okay.
can't do
So
it
it's
on the
going to
tax.
be sent out, so you have to pay it probably within 30 days by August 1st, probably.
You'll get one in the fall and one in the spring starting next year, but you're going to get one in July for this year, and then another one for this year in the fall.
You know, can
Go
I
ahead.
just make a suggestion? And if you can, you can. If you can't, you can't. But you should probably try to create an ability for people to do two things. One is to pay the amount online,
Right.
and also apply for the abatement online.
Yep. They're in the process of
That
trying
would
to
be
do that.
really
Oh, okay.
good, yeah.
So this, folks, listen to this because it's important. For the time being, you don't have the mechanics right yet to
Right
do
now,
it.
right.
So in the future, you're going to be able to do the abatement online. This is the inconvenience is only this time, the first time out. Is that correct?
Well, until we get the system up and
Right.
running, which may take a few years.
A few years?
It's not going to happen
Government's
overnight.
not that quick on very much.
well,
I mean, the
takes
Chevrolet
money.
site's been.
Yeah.
I've gotten, folks. My hair changed colors. I gained about 40 pounds.
I'm still waiting for the blue line to come, and I haven't seen it, so.
I don't think you're going to live long enough to see that. I
I'm
hate
hoping.
to tell you.
I'm
know.
hoping.
Sad to say. Terminal, speaking of. Terminal, can we put terminal up there, Pedro? And this is kind of fascinating to me. In the beginning, or the beginning of the end, once upon a time, there were two. Soon there'll be none. Union Hospital's North Shore Medical Center's operating room are officially closed. Next year, the entire hospital. In its place, and coincidentally, a medical village will open for business. Now, Paul, I love telling the folks here a story that your mother said, that you were born in the frozen food section of Lynn Hospital.
Of the Stop and Shop.
That's true.
Right.
Very good.
So
I'm glad you picked up on that.
She jokes that,
Lean cuisine section?
right, where the frozen food section is was where the maternity ward was in Lynn Hospital. Yeah.
And I remember the Lynn Hospital affectionately,
Yeah.
and it's long gone. When did we stop having kids in Lynn? That happened a long time ago, right?
Right.
You couldn't. There was nobody was born
Everybody's
in Lynn.
born in Salem now. Right?
Everybody, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
I don't think any of my kids were born in Lynn. Come to think
Well,
of it.
actually, my niece's second daughter was born at home. She went into labor and actually gave birth at home.
But they stopped, maternity stopped when Lynn Hospital closed down.
So give me an update. This is Wayne Losey's problem, right? They weren't supposed to close until the fall, the operating room. Apparently, they had a contract with North Shore Orthopedic or Sports Medicine North because their doctors used Union Hospital's operating room for their, and they decided to not go with them anymore, which meant that it was not viable to keep the operating
So
room.
where are they? So where is?
Salem?
I have
Medicine
no
North?
idea. But that was the genesis of the early close of the operating room, is that Sports Medicine North doctors
Aren't going to do that.
aren't going to be doing business with that hospital. And it's a shame because that's a beautiful campus. I had to take this lady that I bring to doctors and drive around. She's a lovely lady, to the hospital over there in Salem. It's a pits. I mean, very seriously. And
It's hard to navigate the buildings.
oh, it's awful.
Yeah.
It's awful. Union Hospital was aesthetically pleasing. You know anything about what's going to happen with this medical village?
Union Hospital was more like a community hospital
is.
where everybody knew everybody. You knew all the nurses and the doctors and the people that worked there. That's what I think people are going to miss the most. The medical village is supposed to open up September of next year. So they are in the process of slowly closing everything down and moving it all out of Union Hospital. My buddy, who just passed away a couple months ago, was in ICU over there. He was getting the greatest care. There was, I don't know, 25 rooms that are there, and maybe 5 of them had patients in them. And he was there for 3 weeks. So in that time, you saw patients coming and going, but 10, 15 years ago, every room over there would have been filled.
Oh, yeah. I was just thinking to myself, about any of my children. Actually, my oldest daughter was born at Union Hospital, what used to be called Union Hospital. I'm going to miss the place. I thought we had a really, really nice cadre of doctors who serviced the folks in the city of Lynn. And I don't understand, and we can argue it all day long. We got over 100,000, well, close, depending on whose numbers you want to use, 92,000 plus a shadow population.
But can I, I'm going to say 2 things. First of all, the number of people you have in your community really is not the key to whether a hospital needs to be in your community or not. The key.
What do you say it is, Paul?
Because the line that distinguishes Salem from Lynn doesn't matter. I mean, people live on either side of it. If they're close to the if they're close to the hospital, they're close to it. If they're far away, they're far away. And the other thing I want to say is, all the hoopla, all the hullabaloo about save Union Hospital and all that kind of stuff, they got exactly what they planned to get.
Talking about partners.
Yeah.
Well,
They
talk
got
about that.
exactly what they were planning to get.
I want you to explain that to the folks when we come back from this short break, okay?
Well, they just closed the operating room, and they're going to put a medical village in there, and it's gone.
We'll be right back.
The Haven Project was created to fill a gap in services for homeless young adults in the city of Lynn and surrounding areas, a population that had previously been underserved. One of the many services we provide is job training, and we had this idea. To improve our job training program, we decided to do training in our very own specialty coffee shop. In our experience, we have found that most clients do not have the foundational skills needed to keep a job. Through this social enterprise and with a job training coach, we can address this. This cafe will provide operating funds for all of our programs. This has been part of our strategic plan since our inception, and we are thrilled to see this dream come to fruition.
And we're back. Fortuitously, which is a pretty nice word, fortuitous, right? Could you believe that we had a commercial there on 1,000 Hills and that was unplanned?
Right.
And you told me it's a social enterprise, meaning?
Social enterprise. So that they kind of operate on a kind of a for-profit kind of premise. You know, they try to make money, but because they're really a nonprofit, they are using the profits that they make and they use it for social benefit.
So it's a hybrid of capitalism.
Yeah.
You were talking about the inevitability of the hospital leaving the city of Lynn and, you know, with all the hoopla, and you were subject to all that hoopla. Did you foresee it, that they were going to leave regardless, and that would, whatever anybody said, all the portion that was taking place was useless?
Doesn't mean you don't fight. It doesn't mean that you can't try to stop it, but
was inevitable.
They got what they wanted.
It come down to the dollar.
Yeah. Was it basically economics?
It was money.
Yeah.
They wanted to take and centralize all the medical needs of the community, not just Lynn, but Salem, and as Paul said, on both sides, Beverly, Lynn, Marblehead, Swampscott, and unfortunately, they weren't providing all those services to those communities. So 20 years ago, they had oncology there, they had operating rooms, like you said, but in the last 20 years, they started taking a lot of that and moving it either into Boston or moving it over to Salem.
Yeah, because the proximity to Boston was helpful. I mean, that hurt Lynn, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So the economic argument that you're talking about is predicated on the Affordable Care Act and all the changes that happen in the healthcare law. Nowadays, it's no longer about buying a service for a fee. You know, you need a knee replacement, you go in and it's $10,000. And now the doctors and the hospital systems are going to be evaluated on the quality of the care that you're given. So if I can keep you, if I'm a hospital and a doctor's practice, my job is to keep you healthy and keep you out of the hospital. And my reward will come from the outcome that is a positive one for you as a person and the system as a...
That's idealistic.
But no, but it's not. But that moving in that direction, that's the way it's moving.
Paul, but they're denying genetics.
No, they're not.
They're not? Paul, let me tell you something. Folks out here, and I don't mean to be... I've been taking a look at a lot of these young kids that I see when I substitute and go around. And Paul, I must tell you, the size of some of these kids, and it's a lot greater pound for pound than anything I remember growing up with. These kids are grossly out of shape.
I get that, and just so I remember when we first started talking about the sick list, because we're playing a significant role in the prevention and wellness component of this healthcare change that's going on. Our job is to educate people and to give them tools so that they can prevent themselves from experiencing these things that cause the 911 call and so forth. So that being said, a lot of what the people were initially saying is, yeah, but you can't do that because what we want to do is engage people in their own behaviors, right, in their own health care. So, well, what are we going to do about somebody who has dementia? That's not what this is about. You have to recognize that what you're trying to do is for each individual you're trying to move the needle a little bit. So if you can move, you know, if I'm generally very healthy, what can I do to improve, you know, the positive outcomes on my life and the impact on the healthcare system? And then you talk to somebody, you know, who's pretty sickly, and what can you do to move their needle? And people that are very sickly are the ones that you can probably have the greatest impact if you can get them to make behavioral changes in their life. So that's what we work on. It's about changing people's behaviors,
Paul,
and the
let me ask
impact
you-
doesn't have to be counted for that one person. It's in the aggregate.
Let me ask you from a strictly economic perspective. I mean, this is cold and calculating. What is the point in letting people live longer, and it costs you a fortune to keep them alive, when you could just allow them to pass away?
Well,
that's a counter argument, you know. And you know who said that? Not me.
Ezekiel
That was
Andrew,
Obamacare, and that was Ron Emanuel's brother,
Ezekiel
who was an
Emanuel.
architect, who
He
said
says, "I
at
wanna die at
75 years old,
75."
you should check out at 75. And they're thinking about that. So they would have put the button on me a few years. And, you know, this is what's sick and bad about the whole program.
Right. If you're 98 years old and you come down with cancer, should you get treatment? Those kinds of questions, right?
Right.
I had a
But
cousin.
also, if you go back and you take a look at Union Hospital, and one of the big issues there was the emergency room.
Yeah.
And that's where the most cost is in that emergency room. So that's what Partners is trying to do is, and as Paul just said, about educating people, because the majority of people who go, 90% of the people who walk into an emergency room don't need to go into the emergency
Right.
room.
That's because the law was passed that you could
Well,
not
what I'm-
deny health care to anybody.
Right, so now, with the new facility they're talking about,
Yeah.
it costs $125 to walk through the door compared to $1,500 to
It's
walk
an
through the
urgent
door.
care environment versus
Yes, but here's
emergent.
what, you think you're going to have the same quality of care?
No,
For the people
you
that are
absolutely don't.
walking in that need
Look
it.
at my finger.
Right, but
Urgent care technology.
okay, but the thing is this, as I said, 90% of the people that are walking through the door have the sniffles. Or maybe need a stitch.
But-
And unfortunately, Paul got a bad doctor that day, a nurse.
No, I didn't go to the
Unfortunately,
emergency
we're
room.
not
I
going to
went
have
to
any doctors because, you know what someone said to me? Now, this is amazing. It's not in your ward, it's in Ward 2, I believe. I'm looking at this building. It used to be Whitman's, when they made the chicken pot pies.
It is my ward.
It
Now
is
it's
your-
going to be a dental.
It is your ward?
A dental
Okay,
place.
so here's what happened. I've been looking at this building. They've been working on it for a year or so.
Right.
Handsome building. I said,
Yep.
what the heck? Now, lo and behold, they put a sign up. You know what the sign says? Braces.
Right.
Right.
They had to spend $1
You know
million
why?
bucks to...
You know why they're doing it? The dentist offices are popping up all over the place because
That's
Medicaid
exactly-
is paying for it.
But
That's what
also,
you
look
told
at what
me.
the building was prior to them doing this. For 10 years, we had a dilapidated building that was falling apart, that it was bringing more blight into the neighborhood. People were dumping trash all over
I'm
the
not
place.
arguing that. I think what they built is a beautiful thing, but
Yeah.
it's like, how the heck did this beautiful building get put in this spot?
There was a
Now,
time when they would not pay for dental work.
Paul, let me go one step further with you. A very wise person said to me that dentists make more than physicians. That physicians aren't going into primary care. They're becoming dentists because dentists aren't regulated. There's,
not
the
as much.
insurance companies
But you know,
put
something,
caps on what
dentists
doctors
now,
can
too,
earn.
can provide more services than a dentist 15 years ago. You walk in, and my nephew became a dentist a couple of years ago, where I had to go and get a root canal done.
Yeah.
Well, you'd have to go to your dentist, get an appointment with an orthodontist or whatever.
Yeah.
Go to there, and it would cost you thousands of dollars. I go to him, he's able to do it, and he didn't even have to pull my tooth out.
Yeah,
It was
they
like he
drill a
didn't-
hole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is amazing to me.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Were you the one that told me that the folks that are moving into dentists are Russians, disproportionately Russian, who are getting medical degrees to be
I wouldn't
dentists
say
because...
it's disproportionate. I would just say that I know a couple of things that I've learned since I've been involved at GLIS, and that is that people from Russia
Yeah.
consider their teeth very important, and they really want to get the best possible care. My guess is they probably didn't get the kind of care back in Russia before they came here. And there are a lot of Russian dentists that have set up shop. Now, whether or not there's disproportionate, I don't know, but I just know that
Well,
there
you
are.
just mentioned me, Russians are in the dental business, right?
Yeah.
Just like, and folks, there's nothing racist about this. Let's face it, if you want a good bricklayer, you better get yourself an Italian, okay?
Right.
If, certain ethnicities,
You know a few French guys that got calluses on their
well,
hands,
French
too,
guys,
so.
those guys from Canada,
Yeah.
Nova Scotia were the greatest
Drywallers.
carpenters in the world.
Yep.
Now, if you want to deny that, deny it at your own peril.
Right, it really is foolish to look at this kind of with a racist.
I'm not looking at racist.
To a race. I'm not saying you are,
Yeah.
but nobody should. The fact of the matter is, there are some cultural differences between,
Different people.
Like, and the thing about the Russian folks is they have no problem waiting in lines. I hate waiting in lines. I won't wait in line for anything. If I see a line, I don't need it that badly, I stop. Russians have
Now,
no
you
problem
learned
with
something today on the show, folks. Paul Crowley does not wait in lines. Look, the point is that they built a beautiful building down there with braces. Now, my granddaughter, one of my younger granddaughters, has a beautiful smile now. When she had that ugly duckling look, she looked like a lizard for a while there, right? All of a sudden, she's blossomed. They took the braces off her, and you think she's on her way to walking with the models. She looks gorgeous. Now, come to find out, it cost my daughter 10 grand. I said, what? I couldn't believe it. Now, I see these kids all day long, braces. Everybody's got braces. And you're not telling me the federal government, the state government pays for them?
They didn't pay for my kids' braces, I can tell
They
you
certainly
that.
didn't. But
I can tell you this, too. You see a lot of older people with braces, still. I see a lot of women in their 30s and 40s that are getting braces.
Right.
So
Yeah, and so the interesting thing is the cost of braces came down significantly when they got better at it. So that was one part of it. And the other part of it is if it's determined that the braces are a medical necessity, you can get them. I don't think you can get it. I don't really know the rules on it, but I'm not sure that you can get Medicaid to pay for your braces if it's strictly a
Cosmetic?
cosmetic type of thing.
they're obviously strictly cosmetic, Paul.
But let
Not
me tell you
strictly.
something.
Mostly.
One of the guys I work with was telling me today, he had a knee replacement back 4 or 5 months ago. He's going to the dentist today. Before he goes, he has to take a heavy dose of antibiotics.
Of course.
And the reason being is because of the gums and the disease. Well, I mean, would you have done that 10 years ago? They realize how important your teeth are.
You're supposed to take aspirin before you have any work done on you, I guess. But here's what gets me. Now, folks, I have a little problem hearing, but nobody cares about the people who are hard of hearing. Do you ever notice that?
Huh?
What?
Huh? You ever know? They charge you $5,000, $6,000 a hearing aid. Hey, they had fun on that one. Wait till I get to these guys. Wait, so how come certain particular disabilities? There's a hierarchy of disabilities. You know that, don't you?
Well,
certainly
and
is.
you know what? I also have a problem with hearing, and they said I needed a hearing aid. $3,000.
Well, that's for a cheap one. That's not for a very good one either.
Yeah.
That was for 1 ear.
I understand that. And what my point being is that nobody pays attention to people who are hard of hearing. If someone has sight problems, oh, that's different because it's noticeable. You get what I mean?
Yep.
Or braces. He says, well, it's medical. Medical, 90% of fixing your teeth has to do with cosmetics. 90%.
glasses?
But
Who pays for those?
dental hygiene has been established. They've established that good dental hygiene is good health overall. They've come to that conclusion.
Well, does
and
that make
change-
sense?
But it's not just that somebody decides that makes sense. It's when you take that position, all of a sudden the funding flows for it.
But you also know that, and we're talking about this, that hearing is good health too. And if you don't hear words the correct way, your brain is not functioning the way it's supposed to be because it's not hearing the way it's supposed to.
Try telling that to Helen Keller.
Yeah.
You know? But here's the thing. I'm saying to you that we make a lot of assumptions about health and what constitutes good health and bad health, etc. I'm saying to you that the number one factor is choose your parents well. And anybody wants to deny that is out of their trees. I mean, I know a kid that did everything under the sun. You know, he peeled off the skin of the chicken, did everything according,
Right.
worked out, ran. You know what happened? He dropped dead running
Hey, so, you know,
at a young age.
so we follow a study that was done by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. It was at University of Wisconsin study, and it talked about, you know, the things that have an impact on your health.
Yeah.
And, you know, there are 80% of the things that have an impact on your health are related to the social environment type of thing. 20% is considered genetic.
That's what they say. I don't
But it was
buy
a study. But look, the point is that the genetics, you said you pick your parents. You can't, right? You get what you get. Everybody
I'm being
gets
facetious, Paul.
No, but I know, but my point is that doesn't mean you can't look at the other things.
You can. But I'm saying that the stress in our country and our mindset is political, because we don't like to talk about aristocracy. We don't like to talk about hereditary rights and stuff like that. So we make all excuses to say that everything happens to be as a consequence of environment. Some does. A tomato is a tomato. It's never a cucumber.
Or a
You get what I
tomato.
mean? We got to go to a break. I'll be back, or we'll be back.
Dude, how did I get my hands so sticky?
I told you shouldn't have used Dave's jelly to make a sandwich.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, like, that jelly was so worth getting.
Hand sanitizer smells so good. I wonder what it tastes like.
Beats me.
You should try it.
Why should I try it?
I don't know, it might be good. Just have some.
Are you crazy?
No, just eat it.
Dude, it even says on the bottle it's not even meant for, like, anything else but your hands.
That's not serious, just have a little bit.
What? I'm good.
If you don't have any, you're not coming to my birthday party.
Are you serious?
Yeah, eat some.
Dang it, man. Why'd you make me do it?
And we're back. Let me say something to my two fine fellows here, talking about health. There was a study done, and they couldn't understand why folks were living to be 80, 90, 100 regularly. And they went there and they studied this. I think it was in the Caucasus Mountains over there in Georgia, not Georgia, United States, Georgia, former Soviet Union, where Stalin was born. And they said, what the heck is it? You know, they figured it might be the yoga, because they all ate yoga and stuff like that. You know what they found out? What the reason? And it goes to what you said to some degree.
It's because they do everything for themselves.
No.
Yes, it
They
is.
had no clocks, no watches. They were
ate
not,
Dan and
no
yogurt,
stress.
didn't they?
Exactly.
So there's a I
That
think it's
reinforces yours.
So there's that, but there was also you know, study of people who live to be 100 or more, and they're clustered in certain parts of the world. Okinawa, Japan is one of these
Right.
areas. And what they found is most of the people that live there, they till their own soil, they bake their own bread, they do everything. They don't sub out anything, you know. In our society, we sub out everything. Everybody gets good at one thing, and then they hire somebody to do the rest.
How much, my son is into this stuff. How much food at the supermarket is food?
Probably less than 5% of it.
Yeah, it's all manufactured. It's
Right.
really not even food. It's reconstructed.
Even
So-
the vegetables we eat have chemicals that are put on them,
Yeah.
and growth hormones, and I mean, it's unbelievable. The meat,
You know what's funny is when I
fish.
when I lost the weight and I've had it off now for almost a year, my food bill went down. And I didn't think that would be possible. I thought for sure, you know, the stuff that I was going to be buying was the more healthy stuff and it would be more expensive. But I've given up a lot of the healthier stuff like the red meat and all that kind of stuff. So actually my food bill went down.
Well, we got to get to odds and ends. And one of those odds and ends happens to be some great comments by our illustrious, erudite viewers. So, we begin with, and I will read the first one, because I find it very telling. Concerning your last show, the main focus on hefty tax increase we all got, I must say, it is a toss-up between Mr. Crowley, that's you, and Council President Scheer, which is you, to who slung the most political BS. Oh, I love this one. I have never heard so much political double talk in my life. Fellas, have fun.
So, I'm still trying to figure out what it was that I said. I don't know
Me
what.
too.
You,
I think people don't like hearing the truth.
That's a good point.
So, and when you try to be truthful with them, whether they agree with you or disagree, they look at it as BS.
yeah. And the fact is, so, this is not BS. Taxes went up substantially.
They certainly did.
And there was, some confusion about the bill. The bill looked like it went up a lot higher than it did because there was a delay in getting the first quarter payments out there and all that kind of stuff. If that's not the truth, if that's BS, I don't know.
The point of the matter is that for many years, to which you're really not culpable, the city of Lynn has not been run very well, managed very well. I can tell you categorically that there was a mayor who I liked a lot personally, who was terrible. Gave away the store. And I think that, you weren't on the council when he was mayor.
Talking about Pat?
That's right.
Well, he was on the, see, the thing is, he was the mayor at a time when the money was flowing. It was during the dot-com, taxes were high, there was a lot of money flowing from the federal government.
That's true. But what happened?
He gave it all to the fire department, I heard.
To everybody. And you have to live with the ramifications of bad management. And that's happened.
Bad management, you're talking about 3 terms ago, so it carries over.
So,
So every mayor after that
you always
has the ball, and they're supposed to pick it up and run with it and do it this way.
Exactly. Well, we did a show, Paul. If you remember, we had some former mayors on.
Yep.
And they were talking about how critical it was to develop the harbor, but you can't develop the harbor unless you build islands.
Right.
To stop a possible flooding, right?
Yeah.
And you need to dredge it. I don't hear any people talking about that. I hear about the opioid epidemic. I've been hearing about the opioid epidemic, whether it's that or marijuana or heroin. Or, it's been going on for as long as I can remember. The war on drugs. We're losing the war on drugs, and all we do is yicky-yak.
We're not fighting it.
Exactly, Paul. We're talking about education. Education doesn't do anything, Paul.
I know.
Education is a catch-all, just like a plan, the panacea for all ills, or have a plan.
At the end of the day, there's money to be made selling drugs. And
that's the problem, Paulie, and nobody wants to talk about that.
And the government and the factories have finally realized that. That's why we have the opioid problem.
Look, if we had people that were not disingenuous, for example, Moulton, who I like to take shots at, he backed the president to shut down the flow, build a wall, we wouldn't have the problem we have. Because if you have a wall, you're stopping a whole bunch of fentanyl from coming across the border. From China, by the way. Russia's our enemy. No, they're not. China's our enemy. And these people are so short-sighted, they don't understand that. Actually, Russia should be our buddy against China. It's grabbing everything. They're grabbing all our intellectual property. You understand that, don't you? But we got people we got Bernie Sanders talking about giving away the store. And 46% of Americans like the idea.
They're already getting a pretty good deal.
I would like Mr. Spina, that's me, to address the latest issue of creating the recyclable trash police that will go around and check your bin. If they don't like what you have in it, they will tag you and not pick it up. Is this what's going to happen? Are we going to have?
So what are they? So what are? Where are people?
Apparently, it's going to be individuals who are going to.
But what are people doing that's so egregious that's causing problems? Is it they're just throwing? They don't care what they throw in there, or is it?
Right. If
or is it
they're
the plastic
putting
bags?
trash in trash bags. And recyclable.
I'll bet you that accidentally I put a banana peel in the recycle once. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But look, we have police in the city of Lynn who want to make sure that people can safely drive around the city of Lynn.
Yep.
Now, every once in a while, you might sneak out of a stop sign a little early.
Not
The
me.
cop that knows you.
I do it all the time.
But the cop knows the people, and they give you a warning and straighten things out. That's that banana peel thing. Every once in a while, someone does something that inadvertent, okay? I don't think this is what they're talking about. He's talking about, 1984, Big Brother.
Last year, there were some people that were going around when people were putting their barrels out, and they were opening them up and taking a look in, and they were telling the drivers not to pick up the trash. That's been stopped.
So is this a case, excuse me just for interrupting, but is this a case where the recycle is going into the regular trash bin, or is it the other way around?
Well, they were putting too much stuff into the recyclable.
Oh, so
It was
okay.
like construction debris,
okay, yeah.
putting bags of trash. Now, the way it was explained to us when they decided to do this with Turner was that, and Waste Management, is that on the truck, they actually have a camera that determines what's going into the back of the truck. And if you're dumping anything in there that shouldn't be in there, they would let you know.
Okay.
They wouldn't pick up
First
your
of all,
trash.
it's not the city of Lynn that's doing it, it's Waste Management.
Waste Management.
That's number one.
Correct.
Number two, did you get that? Number two, I suspect the prudent thing to do is to tell someone, hey, you can't do that, give them a shot at it.
Right.
And if they persist at it, then they deserve to be tagged.
Right.
And these are the same people that when you tell them they can't do it that way, they're going to go back to leaving it underneath the bridge when nobody's looking. You know what I mean? People do that stuff.
Wisdom. Wisdom. We have wisdom here. I have no problem with vigorous background checks. We only got about a minute on firearms. While we're at it, do the same for immigration and voter ID. I love that comment. That is, if anything hits the nail on the head, that one does.
So, that would be interesting because it would basically be, the right wing, the conservatives, they want the immigration issue resolved and they want the voter ID, and the left wants the firearm ID. So trade. Of course, trade it, right? We'll give you everybody, but that's more Big Brother, though, because all that's going to do is strengthen the individual system of keeping track of everybody.
On that note, fellas, this show just flew by. Until next week, and we meet again on Thursday at 5 live, have yourself a wonderful week.